Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1973's Expulsion of the Devil. And actually, this is a French film, and at the bottom there's a French title that roughly translates "At the Meeting with Joyous Death" as an alternate title for this film. A French title for this film, "At the Meeting with Joyous Death, Expulsion of the Devil." There it is right there. And this is kind of that company that I bought from before on Amazon. It's like the only way to get these films, Desert Island Classics. I believe, these are ripped from VHS tapes. They're DVD-Rs. I guess these films are either in the public domain or this is kind of a bootleg company that's on Amazon. But this is a wow, 1973 Expulsion of the Devil, and this is supposedly the first film from Juan Buñuel. And this is, it says, an extremely rare film from France. So let's get into 1973's Expulsion of the Devil, otherwise known as At the Meeting with Joyous Death. This is a film I've never heard about before, ever. And I found this loosely when I was searching for other films on Amazon and picked it up because of the title and brief description. And very, very rare film, very unknown film. And in a day and age in 2016 when, our mainstream movie theaters are flooded with, spooky films and spooky PG-13 films and exorcist films and ghost films, and everything is PG-13 and everything is really pretty much the same, and then we have a lot of the same things going on. This is a film from 1973 that brings you into a different world in the haunted subgenre of horror films. This is a film that will bring a different definition and a different, unique vision to the spooky, chilling, haunted, supernatural world of horror. And it'll be done in an artistic and truly unnerving and scarring type of fashion. We have a family moving into an old mansion, private property. Now, you've heard that a million times before in plot descriptions for horror films. How many times? And with the most popular of horror films like Amityville Horror, and even films involving supernatural possession presences like, of course, The Exorcist. But this is a film that takes that simple plot that I just mentioned and is way ahead of its time in 1973 and does something extremely special, unique, and unforgettable to me. This is 1973. Let's get into this film. First and foremost, when we look at the music and the sound design for this film, we have something very unique right off the bat. There is no music in this film whatsoever except for the opening title sequence of the film, which I believe is a classical piece of music. I think I saw in the opening credits something about Beethoven, but a classical piece of music. We also have some kind of indecipherable rock music that's played off of a small radio in a girl's room late at night. But the sound design, for the most part, other than those pieces of music, this entire film is void of music and relies upon the natural sounds of the environment, outdoors and indoors, the natural sounds. And it makes for a very, very disturbing quality. I know this is something that I maybe have mentioned before in my reviews, and something that I definitely have thought of before, that sometimes when there's no music, it brings a disturbing level that music would not be able to bring in a film. We also have some very strange sound design with the birds and just the sounds of daytime in the natural world outside, trees, private property, wooded area. Natural sound design intertwined in the storyline of this film, relating to the sounds of the birds outside. Yes, indeed. And also very serene, still sounds clashing with violent sounds as well, which makes them all the more unnerving as the film moves on. In terms of the style and the cinematography of this film, we have something very unique going on here for something in the quote-unquote haunted house subgenre, which I believe this film is much more than that and almost redefines that in many regards. But we have this brooding, slow style of the camera. And sometimes the camera, you can see it in the opening title scene, which is as the camera is moving around outside and focusing on a center point of this film that gives me chills, which is this home. You will look at this home with the camera in a way that you haven't seen a home in a haunted house film before. There is something that happens near the end of the film, right at the end of the film actually, that you might have to rewind a few times because it's seemingly a still shot, but your eyes are noticing movement somewhere, but you can't tell where. And it took me a little bit to figure out what the hell I was looking at, because it seemed like it was just a shot of something, but it was something else was happening there. And I got to tell you, folks, some of the most unnerving mirror sequences I've ever seen cinematically before, if not the most. There's tons of mirrors used in horror films. Always. People are scared of mirrors. There was even a mainstream Hollywood horror film called Mirrors that came out some years back. I will tell you, the way that mirrors are utilized in this film just a few times, the way you've never seen anything like it before, and it's extremely simplistic and very bizarrely disturbing. There's a level of disturbing in this film that is not based upon what is typically noted as disturbing in a horror film, and I like those things. Gore, violence, very, very deeply rooted, bizarre, incestuous things like in Amityville Horror 2, things like that. It's not like that in this film. There is something getting at those films that scar you in a different way that you can't even write down, you can't even describe necessarily. Well, the style of this film will definitely do that. There are sequences in this film that are done so simply, but it seems as if there's a supernatural presence behind the filming, behind the way the camera is, the way things are shown. There's this hallway sequence with the clashing of glass and a girl in the hallway, a character in the film that is, whoa, holy crap. There is a violence to this film, not blood, not gore, but there's a violence to this film. And I will tell you something, there is a sexuality to this film that, as I mentioned before, it is not as explicit as in other films like in Amityville Horror Part 2 or tons of other horror films out there, even the works of Franco and things like that. It is a very, very underlying and disturbingly bizarre and unnerving sexuality to this film. Now, there is topless nudity in this film, from a character, from a very young girl. I don't know the age of this girl in this film, but it is unexplainable and weird and sexual, all wrapped up together. There are hints of this film of of sexuality unexplored, even in older men and younger girls. But it's there's hints, there's dustings of it throughout the film that are very unnerving, very disturbing. And I will say that this is an example of a film that leaves you in a nightmare, that leaves you unexplained. Some characters just go away and you never see them again. Unexplained, questions unanswered. An artist in the film. Fascinating dialogue. There's fascinating dialogue in this film between the main family of the film. This film is way ahead of its time, before films like Insidious and all these popular horror films, way ahead of its time, as it was utilizing style with camera within camera, movie within movie, found footage. Yes, folks, found footage. I mean, this was way ahead of its time. You can see the lead girl is topless in this poster art. I believe it's, this was the poster art. She's topless here. So there's a sexuality to this film that's being explored. And you can see leaves on her hair and cracks in glass as she looks at you. There are unexplained things in this film, like a rope, like a dirty rope. There's unexplained things in this film. Duplicated presences and something possessed, mud, strange people that go into vacant homes, young pubescent girls, boiling water. There's so many bizarre sequences in here, but I will say a film crew, a camera crew going into the home to investigate. This is way ahead of its time, and the film just leaves you. It leaves you in a nightmare. A nightmare in the daytime, even. Things happen in the daytime in this film, folks, that are unnerving, that you don't typically see at all. Watch the lighting, watch the daytime, watch the nighttime, watch listen for the sounds, look through the keyhole and see something truly scarring. This is into the psyche, into your mind, into your soul, into your emotions, and it's not explained, leaving you up to your own interpretations the way that it freaking should be for horror. 1973's Expulsion of the Devil. I think you can get this, this DVD-R copy cheap on Amazon. I haven't been able to find VHS copies. I don't think it's ever been released on DVD or Blu-ray. 1973's Expulsion of the Devil. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like this gem right here. Feel free to check out all my other reviews on this YouTube page, as well as my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you and good night.